First item on our agenda is action on achievement.
Good evening. This evening we have three specific recognitions. The first one I would like to see is Luis Andrade in the room. Luis. Your work commitments. Dr. LeBron, could you please come forward? Our first excellent on achievement tonight is regarding our radio station. A young man, Luis from Butler High School, designed the winning logo, which is really cool, and has been painted inside the radio station. It will be on T-shirts, the stationery, that kind of thing. So our first excellent goes to Luis Andrade.
Do you have a picture of the logo or anything? No?
I don't.
Sorry. Wanted to see it.
All right, this certificate reads Certificate of Achievement. The Board of Education of School District U-46 hereby recognizes Luis Andrade of Bartlett High School for your achievement on winning the WEPS 88.9 FM radio station logo contest, presented this 9th day of December 2013, signed by Donna Smith, President, Board of Education, and Dr. Jose Torres, Superintendent of School. So please extend to Luis our hearty congratulations and tell him we're proud of him.
Our second excellent on achievement this evening is recognizing students that won a Technology Students Association competition. Over 386 students competed from 20 different schools, and these are our top students that won their categories. So first off, from Teft Middle School, I'd like to welcome Patricia Alaya, Mariana Medina, Omar Dumedes, and Alejandro Gaetan, plus Dave Harshberger, and teacher Beth Michaels, who's responsible for the work. If you could please come on up.
Okay, congratulations to all of you. The certificate reads Certificate of Achievement. The Board of Education of School District U-46 hereby recognizes, and our first recipient is Patricia Aia of Teft Middle School, for your achievement on winning the Transportation Technology category at the annual Technology Students Association competition. Was it all Transportation Technology? Okay. Okay. So Patricia, congratulations. And for the same category, Mariana Medina. And this certificate reads the same for Omar Bermudez, and it is for a different category, which is the Innovation and Invention category. Omar? And this is also for Alejandro Gaetan, also for the Innovation and Invention category. You want to share that with us? And I would really like to hear, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I guess I would like to hear a short description of what the two different categories were and what you had to do.
So he's got this. What is
Okay.
The trophy,
First place.
So do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I can actually, I have their challenge with, thanks, hi, Beth Michaels again. The boys, Alex and Omar, had the hardest challenge, I believe, in my opinion, at the competition. They had 5 different size plastic cups, and then an assortment of odd materials in the room. They had to somehow manage to create a tool to put all 5 cups in order by size inside of each other, only hitting the trigger once. So once they touched it to set off their device, it had to stack all 5 cups in a row. So when they were given that challenge, they had to take a step back and actually ask the judges, well, can you explain that a little bit further? So they did a great job of actually building the device, testing it in front of the judges, creating sketches, and explaining the device to the judges. Wow. So it was a really amazing achievement. The girls here in the transportation technology had to build a land craft sailboat, also out of a variety of materials. And then the challenge was how fast could you get to go 20 feet with a hair dryer. And other groups were clocking in about 11 seconds. The girls came in at 4 seconds, and then we
Is this a particular class or a club?
I'm the project lead the way teacher over at Teft Middle School, but this is not a particular class. We started a STEM club this year. We have 50 members currently, so it's a big club.
Wow.
And this was our first thing that we did for the club, was go on this field trip. We brought 20 students. And we were so pleased with the results, so now we're just going to continue doing these competitions and signing up for more and more. So hopefully continue.
I do want to thank our teachers, because I know it's not possible for them to have these experiences without you. And do we have any family members of any of these winners in the audience? Because they don't get there without you either. So if you want to stand up and be recognized. Congratulations to all of you.
Bartlett High School students also participated in the same competition, winning in 2 categories. In the VEX Robotics category, it's Kartiki Desai, James Devereaux, Maddie Colville, and Ron Pivalocchi. You can come on up. And in the Invention and Innovation category, it's Victoria Cardenas and Bailey Costello. Dr. LeBron, if you could please join your students. If there's any teachers from Bartlett High as well, that's part of this.
So our first set of certificates is for the category of VEX Robotics, which I hope we'll hear a little bit more in a minute. The Board of Education of School District U-46 hereby recognizes Kartike Desai of Bartlett High School for your achievement on winning the VEX Robotics category at the annual Technology Students Association competition presented this 9th day of December 2013, signed by our Board President Donna Smith and our Superintendent Jose M. Torres. Another one in the VEX category for James Devereaux. James? And I know Maddie Cole, this is not here, correct? And Ron is also not here, okay. And in the next category of for placing second in the Invention and Innovation category, Victoria Cardenas. Congratulations. Same category, Bailey Costello. Congratulations. So can you guys please explain the tasks in each of your categories? Yeah.
So I'm Kartike, and I was in VEX Robotics. First of all, VEX is a type of robotics platform. As one of my technology teachers said, it's basically like Lego's gone crazy, because all the parts are either metallic or very strong plastic, and they require, and unlike Lego where you just snap them together, you actually have to screw them together and actually fasten them. You also have to then program the robot so that it knows what to do. You can use sensors and all sorts of things, so the platform is very flexible. And I was in charge of kind of the software design, and James over here was sort of more towards the hardware side, so actually designing the robot. And so it's a great way to kind of get multiple people together with a lot of different views and do a lot of great things with it.
Great, thank you.
Do you want to add anything, James?
Okay, hi everybody, my name is Victoria, and I'm going to be speaking on Bailey, my part on the innovation and I think it was invention, yes, thank you. So much like the boys from Teft, we were doing something with stacking cups, doing a sort of like Rube Goldberg design machine where we could only have one sort of human touch before our contraption would set off and hopefully stack the cups. Our invention itself was a little interesting looking, but we relied on our drafting skills to sort of push us through the competition, and it turned out to be really successful. We went with our Technology Student Association for Bartlett High School, And currently we're looking into going to state as well.
Congratulations to all of you, and congratulations to Bartlett High School for having the means for all of you to be able to compete like that. And do you have any family in the audience here supporting you tonight? If you do. Thanks to all of you for supporting your students in that.
Thank you.
Our third accent on achievement this evening recognizes Teft Middle School for earning Breakthrough School redesignation by the National Association of Secondary School Principals and MetLife Foundation. The MetLife Foundation Breakthrough Schools from 2008, 2009, and 2010 were examined to see whether and how student achievement had been sustained. And Teft Middle School has sustained student achievement and continuous growth since 2010, which the year was awarded. I also just want to leave a brief story. They had a recent basketball game against Kenyon Woods Middle School. And it really shows a lot about the character of the students and staff at Teft and at Kenyon Woods. The Kenyon Woods manager is a special needs student who they've allowed to play and scored about 23 points during against Teft. And Teft just said, hey, you know, back off a little bit. So they're a breakthrough school in many ways. So, okay.
What can I say? I have 3 students who went to Teft, so I'm a little proud. I've seen the hard work that your staff has done, that the school has done, the effects that it has on the kids is wonderful. I read a quote the other night. I'm not sure if, Mr. Mogi, do you have the quote I read the other night at CAC? No, I can't remember the whole thing off the top of my head, but it was from MetLife, and they said something about the hard work you've done for the more impossible task of sustaining the growth rather than just having the growth and the sustainability. And it's true. That is much harder than just seeing the growth for a few years. I have a certificate for the school. It says the Board of Education of School District U-46 hereby recognizes Teft Middle School for its achievement on receiving the MetLife Foundation NASSP Breakthrough School Recognition Award. Presented this 9th day of December 2013, signed by me, Donna Smith, Board President, and Dr. Jose Torres, Superintendent of Schools. Thank you, and please tell your staff thank you also. Are there any staff members here? Everybody is happy. Teft, stand up. Everybody. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the district improvement plan. Dr. Torres?
We have 2 district improvement plan reports this evening. Our first one is on the National Career Readiness Certification, presented by Dr. Suzanne Colomb, Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning. Tony, or who does the PowerPoint?
Just click on her. I don't think I've ever been first. Good evening. Thank you very much for your time tonight. I'm presenting alone, and I would like to acknowledge packet, Carol DePew, who is the coordinator for career and technical education, would typically be making this presentation to you, and I would be supporting her. But she does have a family commitment this evening, and thus I am solo. So she does send her regrets in that she's unable to attend. I think it's also important that I note how much pride Carol takes in her work and how important this effort and this initiative has been to her work as the coordinator for CTE in School District U-46. So I am here on her behalf, and I will do my best to represent her and her work well tonight. As I said, Carol's the Career Technical Education Coordinator, and so she works with the National Career Readiness Certification that resides in her domain. For those of you who are new to the National Career Readiness Certification, it is a certificate that is industry recognized, it's portable, and it's evidence-based, and it certifies that essential skills needed for workplace success have been earned or achieved by the students, in our case, who take that test. As you see, it's comprised of 3 work keys assessments: applied mathematics, locating information, and reading for information. This certification is used across all sectors of our economy and verifies the following skills. It verifies that students are proficient in problem solving, critical thinking, reading and using work-related text, applying information from workplace documents to solve problems, applying mathematical reasoning to work-related problems, setting up and performing work-related mathematical calculations, locating, synthesizing, and applying information presented graphically, and comparing, summarizing, and analyzing information presented in multiple related graphs. So as you can see, these are certainly real-world skills. The work key assessment actually comprises the second day of the PSAE. This is the final 3 assessments of the full 7-assessment battery known as the PSAE. The state of Illinois, that stands for the Prairie State Achievement Exam that all of our juniors take. The ACT comprises the first day of that test, so there are 4 assessments on the first day that the students must take, the traditional ACT, including math, science, reading, and English. On the second day, students complete all 3 of the work keys assessments. This past year, in April, was the first year that all of our juniors completed the work keys assessment as part of day 2 of the PSAE. In the past, students would take 2 of the assessments for the work keys, and then in fall of their senior year, take the 3rd assessment. So that was a change to the assessment battery this past year. So this next slide indicates the growth that we've seen in School District U-46 since students started taking our NCRC, or working towards their NCRC, in 2007, 2008, 2013, and 2014. This indicates those students achieving a gold level or higher on the NCRC. The NCRC is actually a test that's broken into 4 different levels of recognition, a minimum of 4 different levels of recognition: bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. And essentially, for a student to be bronze, that means they score a 3 or better in all 3 assessments. Silver would mean that they score a 4 or better in all of those assessments. A gold would mean that they score a 5 or better in all 3 assessments, and a platinum scoring a 6 or better in all 3 assessments. Additionally, for those students earning a 6 or better in all 3 assessments, that would mean that they are capable of proficiency in the skills previously mentioned in 99% of the jobs or employable areas that market the NCRC. So you can see that there's been steady growth from 2007 to 2007-8 to 2013 and 14. Now you should note a couple of pieces here. In 2007 and 2008, not all juniors were required to take the NCRC. That was the switch that was made approximately 3 years ago. So in 2010, 2011, all of our seniors, or actually as juniors, they were required to take the NCRC at that time. Prior to that, it was a test that was voluntary for many of our students. Additionally, just so you also note, it says excluding IAA students for all years. IAA students are Illinois Alternative Assessment students. Those are our students who are cognitively disabled, so those students do not take this test either. The next slide gives you an indication of the percent of 12th graders who have been earning the readiness level at the readiness certificate at each level. Most notable from 2011 and 12 to 2013 and 14, as I indicated, when students were required, all students were required to start taking the test. In 2011-12, we had only 2 students throughout the district who earned that platinum level, the highest achievement in the NCRC. Last year, we had 47 students throughout the district earn the platinum level with the NCRC. That's tremendous growth in the course of the past 3 years for student achievement. Again, just as a note, so you identify it down below, 2013-14 also was the first year that all of those students completed the battery over 2 days. So typically what we would expect to see is that students tire over the course of 2 days of test taking. It's a bit of a marathon. And so many times research would indicate that those test scores might actually be higher if they take a portion of the test in the fall, they'd be fresh and new to it. So this was tremendous growth with that research included for our students over the past 2 years. You also see a steady maintenance of those students earning gold, those students earning silver, and an increase in the number of students earning bronze. Obviously, not all students earning bronze, silver, or gold or in platinum. So the increase in the bronze is important because that's indicating that more students are also moving into that area of recognition for the NCRC as well. The next slide indicates for you the total students have tested and the total certificates earned. So in 2013-14, we had 2,844 students who were tested. Of that, 2,474 students earned a certificate. Again, certificate meaning bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. That also translates to approximately 87% of our students who tested earned a certificate last year. So finally, some next steps for us to consider as we continue to support this test in U-46. First and foremost, it's important that we continue to provide information to not only students, but parents, our teachers and educators, and also our local community, as well as practice opportunities for students in preparation for these tests. These tests are a little bit different in the fact that they are based on real-world skills, so their scenarios are workplace scenarios based on directions, fact-finding, and application of information to potential workplace scenarios. Secondly, we do need to continue to monitor the events, the state level, as we work to incorporate the PARCC assessments and the move to Common Core state standards. As most of you are aware, we are still waiting for indication from the state of Illinois as far as what will occur with the PSAE and the inclusion of work keys as well. So we do need to stay at the forefront working with the state to find out how the NCRC will be incorporated into that. Continuing on with our research of work keys and how it aligns to the Common Core state standards, initiating that work this year. Further analyze data to modify our key train intervention model. We do provide support to students in preparation for the work keys through the key train training process. Students receive the opportunities to practice and become experienced with the work keys assessments during their literacy or their language arts classes, their math classes, and their U.S. history classes. Because these tests are different than the rest of the standardized tests our students take, we do want to make sure that they're aware of that test and have some experience with it. Most noticeably, the largest challenge for many of our students is that these two are timed assessments. And so what has helped our students the most, as we've identified through our results and our research, is that practice in a timed scenario. When students are able to practice something in a timed scenario and be able to become fluent in their practice, that has helped their achievement the most. And then finally, continue to build relationships with our local communities and business people. Continuing to strengthen those relationships, as we have many employers in the area who recognize the work keys and the NCRC as ways for them to screen candidates and to identify a skilled labor pool for their potential vacancies in their businesses. And that concludes my information for you this evening. So we'll open it up to questions.
there any questions?
Yeah, I'm always encouraged to get this report. I think it's really hitting a large population and a large, a varied, I guess, set of needs for all of our students, and making sure that we're hitting something for all of them. One of the questions that I had is if you've gotten any feedback from actual students on how this certificate has helped them. I know that in talking with Carol, she's very passionate about it, and we do have a lot of businesses that look at that in addition to, if you don't have that test, you're taking it to be employed there, just to see the assessment. So I know this is a very valuable assessment, but I'm just wondering if we're getting any feedback on that. And then the second thing is the state has also, aren't they providing these tests for us now? We used to subsidize this ourselves, and now the state is also looking at this for the entire state, not just Elgin, and working with Elgin business providers.
So a couple of things. On the first question about student feedback, I will have to follow up with that with Carol.
Suzanne, if you'd like me to answer it, I can.
I could tell you that we have, I'm sorry, Mary.
That's okay.
I know that we don't have hard data, but I do remember hearing about a student who was was applying at a dealership recently. There were 30 people applying. They were in the showroom. She said she had a certificate. She was hired on the spot and started the next day. So it does differentiate. We have about 150 employers right now in the U-46 area that are accepting it. And our Chamber of Commerce, United Way, others have been very keen on using this as a way for employers to save actually around the assessment of potential candidates. So.
The state does provide the assessment, and then there are opportunities also for students to be able to take the assessment and practice additionally through Elgin Community College as well.
Does that cost them extra for those kids to practice extra?
There is a cost for them to take the test. The cost for practice does not exist. No cost to practice.
So if they didn't take the test with us, they could go to ECC and get the test, and it would cost them
They
some
all
money.
have to take the test to graduate, so this is part of the requirements for graduation.
Oh, so then
in the
they're not
state of
charged
Illinois.
for it here.
So they're not charged for it here. Now, if a student though wishes to go back and take the test because they'd like to be able to test at a higher level or achievement, then they can pursue that on their own through ECC as well.
So juniors who take the test then go into their senior year, they know if they've got a certificate or not, or they're not given a certificate until their senior year?
So this year was the first time in the spring in which all of the juniors tested last April. Certificates were arriving for our seniors approximately 6 to 8 weeks ago. And we're still confirming and making sure we have all of those certifications through the state of Illinois and ACT.
You said 2,844 students took the test. 2,474 got certificates. 2,844 is how many of the whole? Is that the entire number of juniors?
It's close to the entire number of juniors.
Except for those few people that
Right.
you mentioned earlier.
So one of the things that we are still working to verify is exactly how many students are in that class. There are always some extenuating circumstances where students don't complete the PSAE in junior of the year, might be due to health reasons. But in order to, again, graduate, they do have to complete it. Additionally, the students who are cognitively impaired students will not take it as well. So there is variance between the total number of students in class in that specific graduating class and the total number of students who tested.
The only reason I latched onto that is because my senior asked me, she was filling out an application for college, and they wanted to know what her graduating class size was. And I just thought if I divided roughly by 5, I'd get a rough idea. Oh, I know, I should have,
Yeah,
that was
it's
the
not
short,
a
easy
campus.
answer, but I thought, well, I could tell her now.
can give her an approximate.
Okay.
You can round up.
Okay.
So I think I've asked Carol this question before. I certainly had thought it if I didn't articulate it out loud, but similar to what Maria asked, although she was getting more at anecdotally do we hear from students, I'm wondering, do we have a way to track, I heard you say we don't have hard data, but do we have a way to get the hard data as to our students with these certificates that are getting jobs? So that it seems like we're connecting all the dots, and that's kind of the last dot that's hanging out there that isn't connected in terms of, and therefore having the certificate has translated into what? More so than anecdote.
And I will have to follow up with Carol to see if we have that data, if we've been tracking that data. So I will follow up and then respond to the board.
So I'm going to piggyback on Tracy's comment about connecting the dots. And I don't know if I'm going to ask this in the right way. So I see us making really significant progress in achievement around this particular area. So something is going right in order for that to happen. And I'm wondering, like, I know it's a different skill set, but there are some of those thinking pieces that cross over into taking tests in general. And I'm wondering about the correlation between our much slower progress in like PSAE and Explore and ACT, because we're doing something right somewhere that we're experiencing this level of growth and success in this area. And I'm just wondering, are we trying to connect the dots about and putting all of those assessment pieces together? It's just, it is a general question. I know you don't have an answer for it, but it's just really curious to me.
It is a conversation we continue to have, and so again, the ACT portion of this test, ACT sponsors both of these tests, so the work uses their workplace portion of it. The ACT portion is aligned to the college readiness standards through ACT, and then the NCRC is assigned to their career readiness standards, but those are skill-based, so those assessments, the work use assessments are really based on that ability to problem solve and to reason a little bit differently. So I'm not, again, I can follow up to see if we have any of that data and also to see what the national trend is on that.
Yeah, I just wonder if they have any data that says like kids who typically score in the platinum category usually get this range on their ACT. And kids who are in the gold usually get this range on their ACT.
Right, so our expectation is that students who are scoring above 21 ought to be scoring a gold.
Okay, so we know that.
So, and that's how we establish the benchmarks. So the actual question for us has been why are we having instead of 22% of the students on gold, why aren't we having 40% of the students in gold? Because that would be the expectation. So while we have shown incredible growth, we're looking at the other side of the glass and saying, wait a second, we should have more. And part of that is that the focus of the mathematics especially is on much more application, whereas our focus in calculus, algebra, and so forth is on conceptual understanding. And so the part of the theory is that if we did more application, we should see those numbers increase. And so that's the challenge, in that we're preparing students for both college and workplace. And the theory is that if you do both would go up, but the reality is that the Workey's math is far more applied.
So a kid who got over 21 should probably get
A gold.
a gold.
That's our understanding. No, that's our understanding from ACT.
Oh, okay.
So they do know that, okay.
And they'll be getting those certificates when?
They've been making their way into the schools already. What we're in the process of doing is making sure that we have a certificate for every student who tested, who should have earned a bronze, a silver, a gold, and a platinum. And so we're still working through some of those pieces with ACT. This data, in respect from ACT, is still listed as very, very tentative and very new. And so they'll be working to confirm all of this for the next several weeks still.
Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cullen. Our next district improvement plan report is on communication guidelines for parents and guardians. And Pat Maggi, coordinator for school community relations, is here to present that, along with Madeline Villalobos, who worked with the CAC in partnership with us to review these guidelines and provide feedback to us.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So the communication guidelines for parents and guardians was developed as part of the FACE pillar, which is to create structures and processes for students, parents, teachers, and staff to provide meaningful feedback through two-way communication as part of the 2012 through 2014 district improvement plan. I'd like Madeline, actually, who is co-chair of our FACE committee and has 2 kids in the district, talk a little bit about the process that went in, the process and history of this document.
Yeah, sure. Our committee has been talking about having the district, we've always been interested in having the district have a communications guideline to address parents' concerns since the start of this committee, which was about 5 years ago. 3 years ago, Karen Fox brought an existing communications protocol document to our family and community engagement meeting for our review. And the purpose of this was to inform parents about the proper channels to go through when confronted with a problem. And so we looked over the document, uploaded it, we uploaded FAQs onto the U-46 website, and then we provided further feedback on the document. We essentially retooled the document, we renamed it, and then we turned it over to Pat Maggi, who took the document, made it much nicer looking, and it's very user-friendly.
And so we, on this iteration of it, we got feedback from the committee, from administrators and other individuals to help with the design. So at the elementary level, the kind of the communications chain would be to bring any concerns or questions to your child's teacher, then the principal or assistant principal, the district administrator who oversees their area of concern, the superintendent or designee, and then ultimately the Board of Education. At the middle school level, you can see there, it begins with your child's teacher again, the principal or assistant principal, the assistant superintendent of secondary schools, the superintendent or designee, and then again the Board of Education. At the high school level, adds a few more steps because of the size and complexity. So your child's teacher, the counselor, or dean of students for behavior, the teacher's supervisor, the principal or assistant principal, the assistant superintendent, and the superintendent or designee, and then the Board of Education. And then this chart, actually within the guidelines itself, which are posted on the website and are being distributed to schools, lists out the phone numbers for kind of some of the most common issues or concerns that come up, and lays out this chart with actual phone numbers. It's kind of a quick reference guide for individuals to call. So if something's going on with your transportation routing, you know who to call and how to escalate the issue from there. And that we do get back within 48 hours at the latest is the goal, to make sure that parents are concerned. The benefits of the kind of redesign is that it clarifies for parents regarding who to contact, is transparent and provide timely information, and then sets forth those expectations for responsiveness at all levels of the organization. Our next steps are to continue to promote the communication guidelines for parents and guardians, and then review the document and gather more input for the next iteration for 2014 and 2015. Oh, and it is in 2 languages, yes.
And it's a real nice looking, I have the color version. It's easy to go through, very nice.
Are there any questions?
So this, having parented in this district for so long, I know this is rife with challenges. Because I know that when a parent is upset, you know, it's really hard to take a step back and refer to a document explaining, you know, when your kid comes home and something happened at school, you know, we often have a really emotional response to that. So I understand that in theory, this is a beautiful document. I would think it would work very nicely, but we all know that emotions get in the way, and so I think on our end of it, from the teachers all the way up to central office, it's our capacity and how equipped we are to be responsive in the most productive and I guess the most productive way when we have emotions in the mix. And so my concern is our level of professional development and training around how we respond on our end, because that is most often where I see the escalation, is that, you know, we had a reaction that, you know, escalated, just like with kids, you know, escalated as that. So I guess I'm just wondering, I think that's just such a huge, huge piece of this working. It's beautiful in theory, but we have so much work to do around that, and I'm wondering what we're doing.
Well, it comes down to that listen, care, and respond, you know, because we have to listen first. I think throughout the organization, we've been having these conversations around standards of behavior that Tony Sanders has been leading, and Dr. Torres with cabinet. And then at ESC, we brought in the Director of Service Excellence over at Sherman Hospital, and it's something that the FACE Committee has been looking at as well. Part of how do we respond, and how do we provide that training to our staff, because it's tough, as you say, it's very emotional issues that come forward.
Yeah, it's a lot of customer service piece that we all need to be on the same page.
Can I make a suggestion? One of the first people that, if they don't know a school board member, one of the first people that an upset parent will deal with is the school secretary. And if that person is not capable of coping with an upset parent, of de-escalating that situation, or of even answering basic questions on where to go, or even being kind to that parent. And I've seen all of that huge gamut. I've seen everything there. I've heard everything from that secretary was rude to me, or that secretary didn't know anything. I've heard that all. If we could just concentrate on that first step, in that first line of confrontation, I really think that would be, I don't know, I hate to pick on secretaries because so many of them are very lovely people, but you only need one for it to go wrong. And they're in a position of power. They don't have to tell you anything. And if they don't, then the whole district looks bad, not just this secretary of this building. If we could concentrate on some sort of skill set for that first line of confrontation, that would be a huge hurdle, I think. Just an observation.
Well, and it's stressful for everyone.
It
you know?
is.
I mean, and it's stressful for all folks, and not everyone can have a good day every day. You know,
Yeah.
It is tough, and to have that support.
Yeah.
You know, so that we know how to. You know, I could, the assistant superintendent's secretaries, our assistants are just, you know, the ones I see on the regular, that just are great at listening to us things, but it's tough because there's so much work for everyone.
And they get so much confrontation too over it. The main office. I'm just talking about, because the first confrontation is almost always in the building.
Sure.
And those are the secretaries that will get the first blast from that parent. And if we could have some kind of training, or maybe even crisis, management training, I think maybe that would be a good idea. I don't know. It just seems like a good place to start. Customer service is a huge part of their job, and I don't think all of them realize that.
Well, I think those are just discussions. What, I was listening to a book, since that's what I can read. Starbucks for their employees has a work book. So you have this upset customer, what's the next, you kind of go through those scenarios ahead of time, so that you have that kind of fallback response. But, it's that discussion of what do we tolerate, because respect is a two-way.
Oh, sure, sure.
Respect is a two-way street, and our employees should not
Have to be sworn
abused
at or
and having that level of support as well from administrators.
I think that the document is an awesome document, and when I was going through it, I was going through it with the mindset of, if I'm not on the inside, kind of like I am now, so I might know who to call, would this document tell me where to go to address my concern? And I got stuck at the elementary flow, where you start with your child's teacher, then the principal or assistant principal, and then district administrator who oversees area of concern. And that's where I felt like a parent would get stuck, because now I have to frame which silo. I mean, some of them might be very easy to frame, right? The bus left my kid standing at a corner. Okay, that's a transportation issue. But some of the issues or some of the things that I'm upset about, there are a lot of interdependencies in this. I might not be able to frame the issue enough to know who's that next person that I go to. And I'm just wondering why it's not, as it is with secondary, why isn't that next person the assistant superintendent for elementary? So it's a specific, rather than forcing the outsider to have to figure out who is the district administrator who oversees whatever, so I can figure out what my area of concern is.
So, I think we need to update the flow chart, because within the written context, it does.
It refers to
assistant superintendent who supervises the principals, but the chart itself. So on page 3. So we should update that. Yeah, because it goes to the flow, but it doesn't say go to the assistant soup. It says.
Because I always get to the shortcut rather than
Well,
reading all the
text,
text.
it's not, it's okay.
Right,
Yes.
yeah, but
You
you're
can
right,
make
it's
that
in the text.
more visual.
But in the visual, if I'm looking for a quick hit, who do I call? I don't know.
Okay, I'll take that.
What's so aside from getting this document into people's hands, via electronically or hard copies, whatever. Again, on the other side of it, there's got to be, we talked about the education piece and the development piece for our side, but what's the education piece and development piece? You can't just hope that the piece of paper does the trick. Is there an expectation that we'll incorporate this into like PTO meetings or parent universities, or are we looking for natural opportunities to educate parents about this?
Yes, and I think if you will look all of the above and having them available within each school. So I know some schools are opting to send it home to every parent. They're making that decision, and we're willing to fund whatever the administrator wants for their building, and have already sent it home. But to have those conversations about it, and then definitely the start of the school year next year, rolling it out more formally.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Next item on our agenda is comments from the audience.
And I don't have the Bears score this Monday night, I apologize. We are now at the portion of the agenda where the board welcomes public comment from the audience. The protocol of this part of the meeting is for the board to receive input for consideration and not necessarily to answer questions or provide feedback as a group at this particular time. Persons who wish to speak must first turn in a request to speak card. These cards will be accepted until the first speaker has completed speaking. When your name is called, please come to the presenter's table and speak into the microphone. Speakers should state their name, address, and relationship to the district at the beginning of their comments for the public record. Each presenter is allotted up to 3 minutes. If the tone sounds, comments should be concluded as quickly as possible. Finally, presenters who wish to read written materials for the board can give them to me. Are there any cards to be turned in at this time?
Buenas noches. Nos encontramos durante la porción del orden del día donde la Junta Educativa le da la bienvenida a algún comentario del público. El protocolo de esta parte de la reunión es para que la Junta Educativa reciba información para ser considerada y no necesariamente para contestar preguntas o proveer comentarios como un grupo durante este tiempo en particular. Las personas que desean hablar deben entregar una tarjeta titulada Petición para dirigirse públicamente ante la Junta Educativa. Estas peticiones se aceptarán hasta que termine el primero de los. Cuando escuche su nombre, por favor, acérquese a la mesa de presentadores y hable directamente en el micrófono. Los oradores deben decir su nombre, dirección y su relación con el distrito antes de comenzar su comentario para el registro público. Cada persona tendrá 3 minutos para dirigirse ante la Junta Educativa. Si escucha una señal, deberá concluir su comentario lo más pronto posible. Finalmente, aquellas personas que desean dejar material escrito para la Junta Educativa, por favor, déjenlo conmigo. ¿Alguien desea hacer un comentario?